Hey guys, it's Rafi, and today I am playing a game here on Lichess, 15 minutes with 10 seconds of increment. At the moment, we have the opening Nimzo-Indian Defense from my opponent, to which we will go with the Queen C2 lines. So the idea is for White to, when the bishop captures the knight here on C3, we want to go ahead and capture back with our queen. Yeah, so right now we're just doing the basic stuff. We're controlling the center, we're getting our pieces out. We are waiting to see how black would respond, so we'll do that. He castles, so we'll go ahead and now put a question to the bishop right away and ask him if he wants to go ahead and exchange himself. And we will go ahead and capture back with our queen. And if the knight comes to e4, which is not usually the best move, we'll go to queen c2, which is a great diagonal for this queen. A lot of times black will play knight e4 followed by f5, which is not necessarily the best way to play the position. I think better is probably moves like d5, maybe b6, maybe even c5 could be played in some cases. So yeah, my opponent goes with d5, which is a very logical move. I think we're going to go ahead and put the bishop on g5 just to get it out of the pawn chain, and then next move play e3. And if black captures, we'll take back with the queen. So typically you want to get your bishops out before you close the you don't want to block the bishops in, because the bishop here has a much more better potential than the bishop would on this diagonal had I played the move e3, which would block it in. If I did play e3 though, which is definitely was an option, I would play something like maybe b3 or b4 and put the bishop on this long diagonal to attack on this king side right here. So my next several moves to this opening basically would be moves like knight f3, e3, bishop d3, putting it on this long diagonal, castling, putting the king on, bringing the king to safety and getting the rook activated towards the center of the board, and putting this rook on maybe d1 or maybe c1, and this rook might go on d1, something like that. Maybe I'll play b4 as well, and using playing some of these moves will give us, our we'll put our pieces on great squares, and from there we expect that our pieces will have mobility and we'll have a great game. So my opponent plays c6. Somewhat logical. He's supporting the center. Although I think he could have been a little bit more aggressive in this position. Maybe try to move like c5 potentially, or maybe even tried b6 or something like that. But c6 is fine. Nothing wrong with it. It is definitely a playable move. So I will go ahead and I'll play e3. The reason behind c6 also might be that I was maybe threatening to play something like takes here, queen takes here, takes here. Potentially, maybe he was worried about me taking there, but then in that case, this pawn does fall, and black would actually be better because he's gotten a much more valuable pawn than I did, and my queen is kind of out of play a little bit, and he's attacking b2. So for those reasons, I don't think that you know playing a move like oh wow. So this is a tricky position. So he's offering me this trade. So I'll take his queen. He takes my queen. If I take his knight, he'll take my bishop. Well, we don't really have much of an option but to trade the queens off at this point. So we're going to go ahead and not calculate this capture, first of all, and then we're going to start calculating after this scenario right here. So now we can come back with our bishop, or we can capture his knight. I definitely want to reserve my bishop pair here, so I'm going to opt for saving my bishop. So now we have an endgame where the reason I don't think, first of all, this was a good move for white. Black, I'll explain in just a second, but um, let's go ahead and figure out where we want to put the bishop. If bishop e7, then rook e8, then bishop b4, knight back to e4. Maybe then we play a move like f3. Knight goes back, and then we play or we can play bishop here at once. We could also play bishop f6. The idea of trying to double black's pawn structure, but I don't think that it helps us that much. And also, he doesn't have to take the bishop; he can move his knight away as well. So, all things considering, I'm thinking that I'm going to move the bishop away from this square, but just trying to figure out the best diagonal to move it to. I think this diagonal makes the most sense. So let's go ahead and put the bishop on h4. So the reason I don't think the knight e4 was a great move is because in the Nimzo, what happens is that black actually gives away his bishop pair with bishop takes c3, but instead, in return, gets a quicker, faster development, which he uses to gain an initiative on white and start a quick attack, while the white king is still several moves from castling, right? All these pieces are still at home, as you can see. So that's kind of the trade-off, is that black gives up the bishop pair, but does get quick attacking chances. With the line that he chose, opponent chose, what happens is that now we've already traded off the queens, so that attacking prospects for black are quite a bit lower. And for that reason, I think that the position is quite a bit easier for white to now play, because we have already sort of entered into a kind of like an end game basically. So I think I'm going to play the move f3 here actually, because I don't want this knight to sit on this great square here. So let's go ahead and get that move in, because otherwise I think he might have played move like g5, and bishop after bishop g3 he might have snapped off the bishop with his knight. So now I'm kicking the knight back basically, and just he could still play g5 here actually, but yeah. So he goes back. Of course, again, I can take the knight and give him some some doubled pawns, but I don't think that those double pawns are going to be that bad for black, so no need. I'm going to stick with my bishop pair advantage and just a solid position here and continue to just develop my pieces. What I'm trying to identify now is where's the best pieces, best squares for my pieces. So one of the things that black will do is he'll probably play this move e5 here after rook e8 probably. So we do need to quickly figure out the situation with our king. I want to leave this f2 square for my bishop. So I don't want to play king f2 here. After bishop d3, he can take, I can take, then he can play rook e8, or he can just play rook e8 right away. To which maybe I could play f4, but then we give this square to the knight again. We could also play c5. That is an option. But I think let's just stick with a move like bishop d3, just simple developing move. The idea is just to play knight here and then just maybe castle. And we should have a fine game here. So our opponent is Sri Ram Kote. Sri Ram Sri Ram Kote, 73. Blitz rating is 1934. Rapid is 2246. So it's definitely a very strong player that we're facing here. So yeah, so my next moves would might be like knight f2 or knight e2, castles, then rook e1, and then maybe other rook can go to c1, or maybe rook d1 and c1. b4 should be played, and then maybe I'll play even c5 at some point, and then b5. Before I play b5, maybe a4, b5. You typically want to attack and continue the game in the direction that your pawn chain is heading towards. So my pawn chain is kind of heading in this direction, so that tells me that queenside is where I should probably be playing on this side of the board, because I have pawns here, here. Maybe after c5, I'll have three pawns pointing this way, which means play should occur for me in this direction. So what will black do? What will he want to do? He will want to get this knight out. He'll want to play b6, bishop b7, c5, or he'll play rook e8 and e5, or he'll play b4, b6, and c5 right away, or he'll take, and then play knight d7, and then follow it with c5. So he goes for the most aggressive option, which is to play e5 right away. So remember, one of the things I was discussing earlier is that we want to kind of probably stop this move if possible, even at the expense of giving up this e4 square back to black, back to black. So I really don't want him to play this move e5 and really open up his game. Like the bishop comes out and everything comes out really smoothly. So I'm going to go ahead and play this move um, f4 to stop that idea of e5 from happening. Then my knight can go to f3, and then I have this great outpost square on e5 for my knight. So now we're basically playing kind of like a reversed Dutch setup, where white has played f4 and also c4, or you could call it a stonewall type of setup. And yeah, it should be a fun game. I think white is definitely has a little bit of an edge, maybe a slight edge, not too much. Black is a little bit underdeveloped as well at this point. I think slightly underdeveloped. His queen side needs to come out, but so is white. Like this knight does not come out yet, and white hasn't castled yet. So I guess maybe we could say that both sides are equally developed at the moment. So definitely a move like c5 will come next, I would imagine. I'm wondering if I should play c5 myself. If c5, then b6, then b4, then a5, then rook b1. He takes, I take, and then he can get his rook activated on the a file. So that's not going to be fun. So instead of going into that line, let's get the knight out first. I definitely don't want to take here, because then he'll take with this pawn, and this pawn will become a weakness. If a move like c5 does happen, though, I might just I don't know. It's hard to say. I could have played b4 as well, but after b6, I'm not sure how I'm stopping c5 if he wants to play that anyway. I am threatening to play c5 now, though. The reason being that, excuse me, after c5, b6, b4, a5, I can just castle, and if he takes, he can't have the open a file anymore because my rook will be able to challenge him on the a file. Now that I have the option of castling and excuse me, and connecting my rooks.
আমি একটু বাইরে যাচ্ছি নিজে বাবা আসবে তুমি স্ট্যান্ড বাই থেকে সুন্দর করে একটা বাইরে দিয়ে যাও ওইখানে শুক্লা যেতে মজা বাই করে রাখো আমি গেলাম
So, what other plans could black go for? He could go for b6, bishop b7, and c5, rook c8. He could play knight e4. There's quite a few things he could try. But I think most likely, though, yeah, he'll play something like I was just going to say that he'll most likely just play c5 and really start to challenge and pressure us in the center. So I'm just thinking, do we clarify this tension, any of it, or do we just leave it? I'm thinking that we should just leave this tension here and just get our king to safety by castling at this point. Yeah, I think we'll just castle. So now I think white is a little bit better developed than black, and we have the advantage of the bishop pair as well, which is great. And yeah, we'll just centralize both of our rooks to these two files or something like that, and we should have a great game here, I think. I don't want to make it super easy for him to, get the bishop developed. So let's just try to think of if there's anything we can do to try to make, complicate the position just a little bit. Um, One idea that's coming to my mind is to play knight e5. So, Um, knight e5 is one move, and then other moves that come to my mind is rook d1, rook c1 as well. And both of these moves should give us, active play with our pieces. We want to get our pieces to the most active squares, and we want to start with our least active piece. So I think we're gonna have to choose between 95 and rook c1. I kind of like this move 95, honestly. I think it's a very active move that just directly challenges um, black, black setup. So I went ahead and played that, and I don't really exactly know where my rooks belong just yet. Like if he takes this now, the rook could, be great on this f file, since the f pawn would have been moved to the e file. Um, Obviously, there is going to be doubled pawns if he did take this way, but I think in this case these doubled pawns won't be that bad for us because this e6, e5 pawn will take away some crucial dark squares from black. This f6 and d6 square, combined with the fact that he doesn't have a dark square bishop, I think him putting his pawns on these light squares is just going to make things easier for us. And if we can get our pawns to dark squares, we will really have some dark square advantages in this position. Again, that's the power of having that bishop pair. Now that is a cool move. I really didn't consider that move too much. I think a move like rook to c1 makes a lot of sense here. And pretty soon we will need to put this rook on d1 just to give some support to this bishop as well. So a lot of tension is now building up in the center. We need to start calculating now. So if rook d1, he can take, I take, he takes, doesn't work. I'm just trying to think if he can take advantage of the c file by taking here. Rook d1 takes, takes. Yeah, I think this should be fine. I think we should be okay to just put this rook here and just centralize all of our pieces and let black be the one to break the tension here. Because there's really none of these two pawns are pawns that we can really take satisfactorily and get some good position out of it. It's just not going to be to our benefit to capture either of these two. That really left only other move to consider is knight takes d7. Um, but yeah, I just chose to play it this way. Now I am a little concerned now if knight takes here and then plays knight here, attacking this pawn right here. So maybe in hindsight I should have played this first and then play the rook to d1 possibly. So that might have been a slight inaccuracy, yeah. But it's not the end of the world. I mean, like if takes, knight g4, rook here. So he wants to just double up here and really, really cause some problems. I see, I see. I think I will play this move here. Well, it does make it easier for him to get in the f6 and e5 though. But anyway, I think this is probably a good time to play this move. Um, because it will kind of make this knight go backwards a little bit, and then we might even follow up with a move like b4 actually. So if rook takes now, that's definitely a possibility as well here actually, that I didn't consider too much. It was definitely a very interesting possibility. But if he stays consistent with his move, rook c7, he'll probably play knight takes so he can put the other rook here. That would be consistent with this move, if that's what he was going for, is to double the rooks in the c file, which is what I think he was trying to do in this position. He was going to double the rooks and then just take on this d4 whenever was the right time. But let's see. Let's see what his response might be here. So I'm expecting knight takes d7, and then we can probably play b4, maybe. Yep, knight takes d7 is what he plays. We do have to start moving a little bit faster now because there is. So now I need to calculate what happens if takes. No, this becomes a big weakness. We really shouldn't take that one. Before he takes, I take, takes. I think I will just play this one and just support this center. Again, as the game starts opening up, which is what it's bound to happen at some point soon here, that bishop pair will become very powerful. And yeah, this one. One second, one second. The bishop pair will become pretty powerful in this position, and at that point, the game will, as soon as the game opens up, the power of the bishops will definitely be felt. So it looks like the game is already starting to open up here. He just took on d4, and we will of course capture back on d4. Maybe he'll try to put some pressure on this. Oh, so okay, that's interesting. So what he wants to do is go ahead and really he wants to take over, just win this pawn basically on the c file. That is definitely a very strong plan. Definitely a very, very strong plan. If I play a move like f5, he plays e5. I take. He takes with the knight. There's bishop g3. But I feel like in this kind of position, we pretty much have to play a very active move, or else what's going to happen is that you know we may not have any kind of chance here. Oh, so we're really really low on time as well. So we're gonna have to be very active. There's just no other alternative. Let's go with this move. There's just not enough time to really deeply calculate this position right now and come up with a grand plan. We just have to play an active move and just move on to the next moment. So f5 was that active move that I came up with. I don't know if it works or not, but it definitely does complicate the position. And yeah, as you can see, it is definitely complicating the position. I'm going to bank on this resource that this move, grabbing this knight, might have some potential. Okay, so he does that. Um, so now we should take. And play for some activity. For example, with this move. I'm going to consistently harass his two rooks to see where we can get with this. Let's harass again with this move. Let's trade one of the rooks off. And let's maintain the bishop pair advantage still. And not get rid of his isolated e-pawn here. My next move is to play this bishop to b5 to try and win that knight. He might play knight e4 here. But our bishop is going to e5. So we protect this pawn here. Again, this is definitely one of those positions where, I mean, it's great to have the two bishops because it's an open position and, lots of activity here. That's not going to be a good move. I play this flexible sort of move, just trying to come after the pawn from the back, maybe somehow this way. His rook is definitely very active now. Let's go ahead and get this G pawn out of the way, since he's going after it so much. Oh, also had this great move, rook to f1. Let's remember this move next, threatening checkmate here. Now we'll bring the bishop back to get some light square defense. We did not have, unfortunately, time to play this rook maneuver thing. Ooh, oh gosh, that's awful. That is actually checkmate. Major mistake. Major mistake. That's unfortunate. That's checkmate now. Completely missed this tactic. Very unfortunate loss. Very unfortunate because we definitely had a huge advantage. Had I just found rook f1 here. Big mistake. Just rook f1 here. Although this is, I mean, he does have this check, and oh, that's mate also. Oh wow. Oh wow. We were in big trouble after g4. Oh wow. That's just, yeah. Totally miscalculated the power of this here. Yeah, this was just big mistake here. Let's quickly look at the game. Okay, so d4, knight f6, c4, e6, Nimzo-Indian defense, bishop b4, queen c2, castles, ace 3, takes, e5, bishop g5, all standard, very standard Nimzo stuff. He plays c6, which is kind of unorthodox. Usually people go for c5 or b6 in these kind of positions. Or taking on c4 is an option as well. So he plays c6, I played e3, knight e4, takes, and I have a huge advantage according to the computer as well, because I have the bishop pair and I did not have to give up anything to get that bishop pair. So certainly can't be a bad position for white. So bishop back to h4. Bishop c7 is what was recommended, which makes sense. I mean, it's a little bit of a better positioning and diagonal for the bishop for the time being, but a bishop h4 is probably fine. Knight back f3, and then bishop d3, rook e8, f4, trying to stop e5, but I should have just developed the knight to e2. Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. Definitely. Definitely a waste of a tempo for sure, trying to stop e5 from happening. Here I violated opening principles. I had more, the principle of least active piece. Knight on g1 was not active at all, but instead I made a pawn move, trying to stop an idea from black, and it kind of backfired a little bit. He got more developed quickly, Knight f3, then c5 came very with a lot of, quick, he quick very aggressively and quickly pushed his pieces forward towards the center. Castles, b6, knight e5. So yeah, like we were talking about in the game, the rook move, rook c8, rook c1, rook d1, or knight e5 were the main options here. Bishop here, rook c1, rook c8, rook d1, rook c7 was a blunder. How so? Because I could have taken on d5, takes, oh, in between move d6, and then took back. Oh, that's interesting. That is really cool. That option exists. But instead, I took the knight and missed that tactic. It took back. Then b3 came. Yeah, I should have here just opened up the c file and contested on the c file right away while he was piling up. B3 takes. Rook c8, f5 was the only move that was active in the position, which I'm glad that I found that move. Takes. Then I took on e6. Takes back. I think he had some really interesting play after this. This, this, this. Hmm. Position is probably a little bit better for black, honestly, because he has the better pawn structure here. Anyway, I took the c pawn. Bishop takes. Wow, fancy move. Bishop to d8. Didn't see that one either. Bishop g3 is what I played. Bishop b4. Black was really able to consolidate well after bishop d5 here. I traded off a pair of rooks. Excuse me. And even though I do have the bishop pair in a somewhat open position, because I have the structural weaknesses with the pawn, isolated pawns on a5, a3, and d4, it was not that easy to bring the bishop pair advantage home. I really was struggling quite a bit here. So after knight f6, h3, rook c3, very active play from black. And knight e4, his pieces just started infiltrating into my position here. Bishop b4, rook b3, bishop a6, and he played rook b2. So even here, I could have played rook f1, I think, and created a checkmate threat. But it doesn't really do much because he could have always played h4, h6, or h5 and just gotten out of that threat. After g4, he plays a beautiful move, knight to g5, and it's almost impossible for me to stop the incoming attack. But I play the worst possible move, which is this, which is checkmate in one move. Or sorry, two moves. Totally missing. I thought that g2 was the problem and this h3 was the problem, but I totally missed that this f3 square is great for the knight, and then that cuts off the king's escape square, and the rook and the knight coordinates well to give checkmate on h2. Totally missed this idea, even though it's a very common checkmating pattern actually. So I'm really not so happy that I missed that. Anyway, that's pretty much it. The main takeaway from this game is that I think we really should not have played f4. We should have stuck with the opening principle and played knight e2 and gotten the pieces out. Other than that, I think that overall the game was okay, except we missed this big, checkmate at the end. And we also should have really, on a timely manner, opened up that c file to our advantage and not let him really pile up on the c file with the double rooks and eventually taking, on c4 and things like that. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the game as well, and I will catch you in my next video.